And here he is. Here he is. Woo! He's here. You guys, welcome. Welcome, Mr. Prince Aziz. How do we refer to you? Is it Your Highness? Is it Prince? If I have to call, okay, he sent the request. Aziz. So just Aziz. Wow. Welcome from the streets to the palace. Wow. Wow. You know, us in America, we're used to, coming to America. Akeem, the Prince of Zamunda. When we think of an African prince, that's what we think of, So it's nice to have you here. So tell us all about it. So I know that you didn't learn that you were royalty until you were 21.
Yes, exactly.
So prior to that, what was your life like?
Well, I was born in Brooklyn, New York. Born and raised in Far Rockaway, Queens. I spent most of my childhood in Far Rockaway, Queens, and East Flatbush, New York. Raised with a single mom. And as I grew up, I learned about the streets at an early age. My mom's kept me in the house as a kid, but there was only so much that she could do. Where I grew up at was, it was a lot of influence, a lot of peer pressure growing up. And eventually, as I grew, I learned a lot more about the streets, and eventually I got involved running the streets as well.
Right. For how long would you say? How many years?
I mean, most of my childhood. I mean, I've traveled. When I was 14, I left the hood and I came back when I was around 15 years old, and I had my experiences in the hood. Right.
Nova, do you want to ask any questions? He might be freezing a little bit. Oh no, he's there. Do you have any questions you would like to ask?
You thought I was freezing. I was just listening.
No, I mean your phone, because I did see that it was frozen for a second earlier.
Oh, yeah, everybody calling my phone, man.
Which reminds me to turn off my notifications. Thank you.
Yeah. No, okay, so I'm sorry. You said you were from what part of you said you were from Brooklyn?
I was born in Brooklyn, East Flatbush.
Okay, cool, man. I actually know a few artists that were located out there. I'm not sure if you've heard of Bliss or Angelus, but they were both from that area, Brooklyn area. But,
okay.
Well, it's nice to have you, first of all, man. I guess one of the things that I wanted to know was, why do you feel that you didn't find out until you were of age about your bloodline?
Okay, well, my father, he lives in Africa, and my mother, she's a total different culture. My father's culture is totally different. They were not together, and they were just two different individuals. And my mother and my father had their differences. So, which kind of kept me away. And I grew up, I heard stories about my father, about who he is, but I was not really concerned because he was not there. So it was just me, my mother, my uncle, may God bless his soul, and just my friends. I was the only child at one point up until I was 11 years old. And I had two little brothers from my mother remarried someone else and had two little brothers from that situation. Yeah, so I mean, my stepfather, he was there for a limited amount of time, but it was just mostly me and my mother growing up.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
What was it like growing up in the area that you grew up?
Well, for Rockaway, I did not grow up in the projects myself.
Okay.
It was in the hood. Okay, it's a combination of everything. You have middle class, but it's mostly urbanized. There was a lot of street gangs growing up over there. There was a lot of drugs and crime in the area. I've seen a lot growing up from people getting killed. I was involved in a few things myself. I fought a lot growing up from a kid. It was a lot of tension growing up over there.
Right.
Gotcha.
I've been to Far Rockaway one time, so I know
Yeah.
how that is. Okay. Did you have another question, Nova?
Oh, I'll just be shooting I'll just be shooting questions as we go. But
Okay, so we'll take turns. We'll take turns.
yeah.
So you were saying that you knew of your father, but you didn't really think too much of it because he wasn't around. When did you actually learn that he was a king? How old were you?
From the time I was a child, growing up,
Okay, okay.
I would hear the stories. I would see some pictures, but I would ask my mother. I had an older brother, actually, which I used to speak to. May God bless his soul.
For the people who are just joining, can you please pronounce your name for them again?
Aziz Abdul Ibrahim.
All right, all right. So, yo,
Yes.
I'm gonna call you Aziz. I'm gonna say
That's,
exactly.
that's perfect, yeah.
Bam. There we go. That Aziz. Hey, yeah. I say, yay, we can hear him.
It's
Yeah,
so awesome. I
yeah.
know. Okay, so
Yeah, right.
let's get this straight. Your father, he's the king. Is it called Iberiland?
Ibira tribe, Ibira land. It's on West Africa. It's Nigeria. It's a small town, Okene. It's Kogi State, Okene.
Okay, okay. And I'm gonna make sure if it's okay with you, if I can get a couple of pictures of the palace and stuff so that the editors can put it on the YTV platform, because you're gonna be on a different platform that has over 168,000 subscribers. It's a hip hop platform.
That's fine. That's fine. You can find
Okay.
Google.
Who are your favorite hip hop artists since we're on a hip hop platform?
My favorite hip hop artist. Oh, I mean, I have quite a few.
Okay.
Went to my '90s hip hop where I grew up at, of course. Biggie, Tupac was my favorite growing up.
Right.
Of course, DMX, uh, Run DMC, Onyx. I was a heavy Onyx fan. Of course,
Okay. I used to like Onyx.
favorite, Bone Thugs was a big thing growing up, especially in
Yeah.
middle. You know, um, and of course, I had some people I grew up with who were hip hop artists, actually late hip hop artists. Stack Bundles, to be exact, he was one of the best rappers in New York City, from my hood, Far Rockaway. Somebody I personally knew growing up.
Okay.
Yeah. As far as the new artists, Max B, French Montana, um, Gerbo. I listen to a lot of them.
Very nice. Very nice. Nova has had the privilege and honor to kick it with DMX. He's got some photos of him and everything.
Okay, okay, that's what's up.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, DMX, man. God bless. Yo, he was great. I actually met Biggie one time, but I was like 13 years old. I
No.
I didn't really, I was not the type to approach people to ask autograph. I was cutting school when I was 13, and I remember too. I ran into him. He was in this white limo in Bed-Stuy in this hood. Two girls with him. I remember it. And DMX back. I think it was back in 2005. No, actually earlier than that, 2004. I seen him at the Kennedy Airport. We, yeah, we was on a flight to London. Actually, he was. I didn't approach him because he was like. I think he was spazzing out. He was on the phone yelling at somebody. I just seen him.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
but
awesome.
it's unfortunate what happened to him. He was a great artist, though, I must say.
Absolutely. One of my mom's favorites.
Oh, okay, okay.
So, you get the next question, Nova, but I have to start.
Talk to me.
So, what was it like when you first went to Africa and met your dad and got to stay in the palace? And that's like everyone's dream to find out there. It's like a fairy tale, you know? It's like a hip hop gangsta fairy tale. Like, what was that like? I mean, tell us.
Oh, it was a culture shock. It was a culture shock. It's something that was not really easy to get used to. It was totally different. You know, the way they greet people, um, the way they dress, the way they eat. It's just everything is just so different from what I was used to. And I
Right.
think the religion, you know, their beliefs, it's just something that was. It took me time to get used to. You know,
How long did you stay?
I'm sorry.
How long were you there?
The first time I went there for a month. Actually, this was back in 2004. I went there for a month. I got to know him. Um, I got to see our similarities, and that's when I realized, you know, what my mother couldn't stand about him. You know, she saw that in me. So then, you know, my father actually in his younger years, you know, he was not, you know, ordinary person. He was not like, you know, such royalty. He was a prince, of course, but before he became a king. But he was a boxer. You know, he done a lot of hard work growing up, and growing up, I had my aggression too, and that's why I saw this is where it came from. A lot from my father's side.